Well, ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa will be delivering closing remarks at the conference in the Eastern Cape in a short while. Let's talk more about the conference in the Eastern Cape, and we're joined via Zoom by Dr Joeleen Kotze-Steyn. A very good afternoon to you, and thanks so very much for availing yourself to SABC News.
Good afternoon, and thank you for the opportunity.
You're most welcome. Let's begin here. I mean, it seems as though this is a clean sweep for the Mabuyane slate. What is your reaction at this time to this?
You know, I think when we look kind of at the history of ANC elective conferences in the Eastern Cape, most notably, I would argue, from about 2007 onwards, and of course culminating in chaos in 2017, I think this particular conference once again reiterated a factional divide and almost embattled ANC internally, looking for some semblance of a unifying strategy in order to bring the party together as the party starts looking towards the 2024 general election.
Yeah. What are you expecting to hear from President Cyril Ramaphosa this afternoon? Do you believe that he is set to close the conference? And interestingly, I mean, you're talking about factional divides, and it is particularly interesting to note the fact that President Cyril Ramaphosa was not there to close the conference in KZN, but however will be available in the Eastern Cape. Is there anything to be made of this?
No, I don't necessarily think that it is surprising that the President will come in order to close the ANC elective conference in the Eastern Cape. We have to note that the Eastern Cape is known as the heartland of the ANC. Many great leaders from the ANC born and bred within the province. So there is a huge symbolic value and attachment, and also noting that generally speaking, the largest number of support for the ANC would come from its proverbial heartland, and therefore remains a strategic, almost stronghold that the ANC does need to hold on to at all costs.
Yeah. Let's continue to talk about Oscar Mabuyane, of course, today being victorious, but, has been accused of being involved in corrupt activities. In fact, at some point, we'd heard that the Hawks had gotten involved, but we were also being told by the ANC itself, by the president himself, that the ANC is very serious about, this issue of fighting corruption, any form of corruption, even where there's a whiff of corruption or where someone is even suspected of being involved in corrupt activities. As we see the celebrations in the Eastern Cape at the moment with Oscar Mabuyane retaining his position, must one then think that the ANC is perhaps not so serious about this issue of fighting corruption?
I think that is very much the challenge that remains for the African National Congress, both at provincial levels, local levels, as well as at the national level, where there are very serious concerns and allegations around corruption. There's a very strong narrative around dealing with corruption, but then on the other side of the coin, we also see almost a lack of consequence management around key individuals implicated or linked to some form of corruption within the various governance levels. And I think there's some serious internal reflection that needs to happen around how serious the narrative is around facilitating team governance, which ultimately would affect development in the country. Yeah.
Let's talk about the step-aside issue. While we're on this topic of corruption within the ANC, some have argued, and some do argue still, that, this step-aside is used, in fact, as a ploy to get rid of those who are not in favor with the current administration. Would you agree with those kind of viewpoints?
I think that it's very how can I say, politically expedient, regardless of the narrative, whether it be a step aside or whether we speak a narrative of redeployment, for argument's sake. Within a factional political party, those types of narratives and strategies can become politically expedient ways in order to try and get for one faction to gain an upper hand over another faction. So again, central to that is going to be the principle of consistency, that regardless of which faction you are aligned to, if this is what our policy directive states, it needs to be implemented across the board without due consideration for any sort of factional politics.
All right. Dr. Kotze-Steyn, thanks very much for speaking to us, and we hope to have more of these sort of conversations with you. Thank you so much.